Good morning, everyone. It's 8:30, and thanks for joining us for Face the State on this Sunday morning. I'm Dennise House. 2019 is a year of all sorts of new laws coming our way in Connecticut, from marijuana to tolls to casinos and more. So how will your state change in the coming year? With us today to talk about this, two state senators, Tony Hwang, a Republican, and Dennis Bradley, a Democrat. And senators, we thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
So let's begin with you, Senator Hwang. What is the number one thing you hope to accomplish in this session?
Well, it's interesting. It's 2 weeks into the session and the new Lamont era has begun. I think we need to really be focused on our budget, our ability to create a sustainable government moving forward that is predictable but meet the needs that we have in our state. Unfortunately, all we've heard the first 2 weeks really has been about a lot of the ancillary issues about revenue, not about structural changes to our state.
Do you agree with that, Senator Bradley?
Well, you know, I think that structural changes obviously need to happen, but I think it needs to happen in a progressive way. I think we need to look at what I call the New Deal, a way that we can ensure that Americans, both in the middle class and the lower class, have a way to pull themselves up and partake in the prosperity of this great country.
You're talking about higher minimum wage?
Absolutely. That's definitely part of the plan. It's about making sure that people who work in the state have the dignity of how hard they work.
And how do Republicans feel about that?
Well, I think minimum wage, we all believe in the idea that everyone should have their fair share. And we also understand that the high cost of living in the state is prohibitive. But we need to understand some of the structural overlays of that. How are we going to affect businesses? How are we going to have that multiplier effect of businesses and people that will change their economic levels? You know, their benefits may change. So we can't be going into it, even though we may say other states around us have partaken in it, those states are in far different economic climate than we are in Connecticut.
This past week, they were talking about marijuana at the state capitol. There were some protests up there. Senator Bradley, do you support legalizing recreational marijuana?
I support anything that's going to create jobs in the state of Connecticut and revenue for the state of Connecticut, but it has to be done in a way where there's equity. We can't simply say we're going to be following the lead of other states who didn't quite get it right. So what I want to see is make sure that we have reform in our justice system when it comes to marijuana, and most importantly, I want to make sure that this money that's generated, it goes to areas that have been targeted and kind of disenfranchised when it comes to the war on drugs and things of that nature. So urban centers have been targeted on the war on drugs. I want to make sure that we provide people education and ability to utilize whatever funds are coming into the state so that we can help them prosper in whatever new legislation we pass with marijuana.
No, many Republicans are against it. Where do you stand, and do you think you have enough to stop it?
I would offer this, that there are Republicans and Democrats that may oppose this issue, and I think it requires some study again. Just as we talk about minimum wage, there are plethora of challenges when you institute a dramatic change in our social policies. So when you talk about law enforcement has raised concerns of anecdotal data from Colorado in regards to traffic safety. We also looked at concerns in regards to how that's going to impact some of the well-being and public health sectors. We've not discussed it. If we're pursuing avenues and everything we're talking about in the General Assembly for the greater goal of more revenue, then I think we do a disservice to the people we represent. We're not taking care of the implications of some of the laws we input. Criminal reform in that marijuana issue, I wholly agree we should discuss it, but nonetheless, we have to tread very, very carefully and not simply say, everybody around us is doing it, why don't we go do that?
That third casino, you're from Bridgeport. Do you want a third casino in Bridgeport, or is East Windsor where it should go, if there is one?
Well, what I think we should do is, as a legislature, I want to make sure that we have fairness. And I understand that in fairness, it's honoring the deals and compacts that we've made with the tribes and other organizations. And I also understand in fairness and moving forward, we have to look at what makes economic sense for the state of Connecticut. So if what I'm proposing is that there be an RFP, that there be an open bidding process, that we look at what avenues are available to us and see which one is the most fiscally sound, which one's going to create jobs and prosperity for the state of Connecticut, and whatever avenue that is, and I'm for it. Obviously, I think Bridgeport would be a great place for a casino, but if it doesn't add up when we look at the studies and we look at what's being offered out there, if that's not the case, then I'm open for anything that allows for us to prosper as a state.
And Senator Hwang, you're from that area, you're from Fairfield.
It's a great pivot between Dennis and I, because I'm the ranking on public safety, as Dennis is the chair. We're going to be discussing the gambling issue as per the compact. But I think the issue is really understanding that what does the implication of financial as well as social impact of gambling needs to be addressed. But I think the other point that we're discussing is not only casinos, but sports gambling and internet gambling. The multiplier and the potential impact is so much greater, and we need to be fully aware of that consequences.
Briefly, tolls. Do you support them?
I think, again, thank you for allowing me to begin, but I think tolls is something that's been discussed throughout my career in the legislative session. I think we have now finally this year an opportunity to really talk about a plan and how it's going to be implemented. When you talk about 82 gantries from Greenwich to New Haven, that's overwhelming. We need to understand the full implication of tolls and not simply look at it as a revenue.
I'll let you get the final word on that, Senator Bradley.
So just briefly, I think that what we have is an immense amount of opportunity, right? An opportunity of changing the way we commute and the way we do transit in the state of Connecticut. What I'd like for us to do is look at it not from a standpoint of the obstacles, of the opportunities that we have. So I don't believe in any tax that taxes middle class and lower middle class. And I would be in favor of something which would tax commerce. Because obviously there's the utility that they get from the highways and byways. So I would have to look at what's being proposed before I would be in favor of something like that.
State Senator Dennise Bradley, State Senator Tony Hwang, we thank you both for being in the program today.
Thank you.